In this video and the next one, we will discuss what we call circular import. It's a case that you as a junior will rarely meet, but it's good to know about it. If you couldn't understand the tracing of the video, take it easy and come back later. It isn't an urgent topic for a fresh person learning Python, but it is very important to know in the industry itself. We learned that when Python do an importing for a module, it only imports it once. Here is some details about what happens behind the scene. The interpreter checks first if the module exists in the registry or not in the sysmodule dictionary. And then it's one of two cases. If it has been used before during the session that you are doing, it's going to use it so that it is cached in the sysmodules dictionary. If it doesn't, it do two things in this order. First, it mark in the registry that we are going to load this module, and then it goes to initialize it and load it. Observe that the marking happens first, so it's like a partially initialized till we complete the initialization of the module. We will stress this point. Now the question is, what if module A is importing module B? But in the same time, module B would like to import module A. So this is like a cycle. A would like to import B, and B would like to import A. Now this is a cycle, and it can even be bigger, like A, B, C, D, A. Now this cycle will typically make some problem. From Python perspective itself, there will be no re-importing. It will stop normally because it will find it initialized, partially marked in the registry. However, the problem is some functions or classes might not be defined because you are partially initialized. Let's see some examples for this theory. Assume we have three files: a.python, b.python, and c.python. And let's run c.python. I'm going to make a step-by-step tracing so that you understand the problem. In c.python, we will run it as a script. We will stress this point in the next slides. In line number 1, in c.python, we asking for importing A. Now, behind the scene, the interpreter asks, is this initialized A module? The answer is no. It will mark in the dictionary of sysmodules that mark it, we are initializing it, and go to initialize it. Now we jump to a.python because we are importing A, so we jump here. In the first line in a.python, we import B. Again, the same question, is it initialized? No. Mark it and go to initialize it. Now we jump inside file B. In line number 1, it says import A. But wait a second, we are already in the progress in initializing A. So it will skip it and go back. Observe here that we didn't trace the whole A again, like these functions aren't defined at the moment in B. In A, yeah, this function AF isn't initialized now. So far we were at A, jumping to B, jumping back to A, jumping back to B directly. So our next line will be 2 here, x equal 1, but no one knows so far about AF here. Let's continue. Initialize x is 1, and line 3 initialize BF, then finish it and go back one step. We go back to who make an importing to B, which is A. Okay, remember this this kind of recursion tracing. We were at C code B, A code B, B code A, but A was imported, so this call didn't happen actually. Then we finished this guy, then this guy, then this guy, then we return it back to AF again in the a.python. Observe here the tabs. I'm making the tabs so that you observe the order. We were at C, then at A, then at B. We finished the B. We go back to A at line number 2. Now we define A, we define B, line 4 here. We make a call, and then we make a call to line number 3 here, b.x. Observe that B is completely defined, completely initialized. So x is 1 existing. There is no problem here. Let's see when the problems happen. We're making a change here, a small change. We are using another script called D, which has an importing for B, not importing for A. So let's make a trace. D will run as a script, and then we will call import B. So we now jump at B at line number 1. Line number 1 is calling import A. Make a tab here. We are at importing A. Importing A is asking to importing B again, but we are in progress. Skip and go back to B. Skip and go back to continue in A. Like B will not be initialized. We go back to here. Now initialize AF. That's okay. Call OF in line 4. That's okay. At line number 3, we ask for B.X. We will get an error. It will say partially initialized module B has no attribute X. What is the problem? The problem is B isn't fully initialized so far. No one know about this X or this BF because B was in the progress of initialization, so it wasn't initialized. Now the problem here fail. I would like to tell you something. I hope so far that you got the problem. If you couldn't got it, don't keep going in this video. And you have two choices. You can repeat the video again. You can learn first the recursive function section and come back to here again, or skip it completely and come back after you end the course. I will assume that you understood the sequence so far. I would like to stress on something here. If you try to run B.by itself, you will not have a problem. But if you try to run D, you will have a problem. And this is very confusing for many guys, even some experienced guys. Why? When you run a script, when you run D, it is marked as a script. And it starts importing B. If you try to run B itself, it will not be marked as a module in the first run. It will be marked as a script. So B isn't imported so far. This might be the reason that people get confused. And in the next video, I will stress this point again. Here is another case. We have a file X, and we have a file Y, and we have file Z. Observe here. Y just has some importing and some functions. X has some importing and some functions. We are at Z. Z importing X. X go to Y. Y go to X. It returns directly because X is already in the processing. It adds F2. Then we go back to X. It adds F1 and F3. Observe here. Although there is a cycle, but there will be no problems because we have here just a bunch of functions. We didn't start calling anything yet. And once all the importing is done, then all of the file will be totally complete. So no problems here. But I would like to give you a tab. Isn't it much more elegant design to move this importing X from line number 1 to line number 4? When you do that, there will be actually no cycle because importing X will call Y, which doesn't call X, finishing it, go back to here. One of the standard tricks to break the cycle, as we will know, is to actually import when only you need it. So you need it here, put it here inside the function or inside the class here in this specific area. In the second video, we will stress some more thoughts. If it is hard, try to repeat or skip the whole video. That's all.